I get it, you're standing in front of a wall of options, wondering if you should spend a serious chunk of your budget on a big screen sign that might end up being more flash than function. You don't want to end up with a pricey TV that looks great in a showroom but turns into a headache when you try to run a day-long playlist or a Zoom call in a cramped office. You're asking yourself if the Samsung QB65R is actually worth it for a retail store, a conference room, or maybe a small restaurant that wants to showcase daily specials. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started digging into commercial-grade displays, the biggest pain points I kept hearing about were installation hassles, the need for a reliable built-in player, and the fear that the brightness would wash out under ambient lighting. For a 65-inch unit, those issues get amplified because you're not just buying a TV, you're buying a piece of your brand's visual identity. I pulled apart the specs, read a handful of forum threads where AV integrators compare signage solutions, and looked at how Samsung's business line fits into real-world workflows. First off, the QB65R is positioned as a 4K UHD sign that promises dynamic crystal color and a built-in SoC media player. What that means on the floor is you can drop a USB stick or point the display at a network share, and it will handle the playback without a separate PC. In a coffee shop that wants to loop a menu and a few promotional videos, that all-in-one approach can shave hours off the setup time. The Smart Player runs on Samsung's own processor, which, according to the datasheet, is optimized for 4K upscaling. So if you have older HD content, the display will boost it to look sharper, which is a nice little value add if you're repurposing legacy assets. Now, the brightness rating is listed at 350 nits. For an office lobby with controlled lighting, that's plenty bright. Your graphics stay punchy without the glare you'd get on a consumer TV. In a well-lit retail aisle, however, you might notice the image softening a bit, especially if you're trying to read small type on the screen. It's a subtle trade-off. You get a sleek, thin bezel and a lower power draw, but you lose a few stops of brightness compared to higher-end signage that pushes 700 nits. If your space is bathed in natural light, you might have to consider additional shading or a brighter panel. One of the strongest selling points for this model is its Cisco WebEx Room Kit compatibility. In a conference setting, the display can double as a video conference portal. You simply hook the WebEx kit to the HDMI port and let the built-in speaker array handle the audio. In a trial run at a mid-sized consulting firm, the team appreciated that they didn't have to rent an extra monitor for breakout sessions. The integration is pretty plug-and-play, which saves the IT department a lot of time wrestling with drivers. That said, the speaker system is decent for background music, but not a substitute for a dedicated sound solution if you need crystal-clear dialogue in a noisy open office. The design language is what you'd expect from Samsung: clean, minimal, and thin enough to mount close to the wall without an unsightly gap. The cable management is built into the rear, so you can route power, HDMI, and Ethernet through a single conduit, which keeps the ceiling or floor look tidy. For a boutique clothing store that wants a gallery feel, the aesthetic payoff is real. On the flip side, the thin housing means the panel is a bit more fragile during transport. If you plan to move the sign between locations, you'll want to invest in a proper mounting bracket and maybe a protective faceplate. Who should consider the QB65R? If you run a business where visual communication is a daily need, think corporate lobbies, training rooms, or a restaurant that cycles daily specials, a 65-inch 4K sign that can upscale older assets and run off a simple USB stick is a genuine time saver. The built-in media player also means you're not paying extra for a separate mini PC, which can be a cost-effective edge for a limited budget. Companies that already use Cisco WebEx will find the compatibility a neat, low-friction addition to their meeting rooms. Who might skip it? If your environment is a storefront with large windows and sunlight streaming all day, you'll likely need a brighter panel to keep the image legible. Likewise, if you require top-tier color accuracy for high-end product photography, or you need a professional-grade sound system embedded in the display, you might look at a pricier signage solution that's purpose-built for those extremes. Also, if you're a small shop that only needs a static image or a simple slideshow, and you already have a low-cost digital picture frame, the QB65R could feel like overkill. In terms of daily usability, the on-screen menu is oriented toward business users. There's a playlist mode, scheduling options, and a network status dashboard. The learning curve is mild. After a quick